This is an attacking setup that Pep Guardiola employs at Manchester City, and you can see that Manchester City has five-man players during build-up and five men behind the ball. The positions of the two floating number 8s is also quite important, since they are not in line with the number 9, but rather in staggered position in the pockets of space, making Manchester City to attain that 3-5 system that they like to deploy during attack. Now, this is also Arsenal pinning Sheffield United deep into their own The main point of concern is the positions of the two centre-backs, Gabriel and Saliba. They have played with a very aggressive high line, taking up their men and limiting the number of spaces when Arsenal lose the ball in the attacking phases of the pitch. So these are two organized teams. Arsenal, a team that has conceded less in the league, and Manchester City, the benchmark. Now contrast this with Chelsea, which is trying to build their attack. Look at the positions of their centre-backs and especially look down the right-hand side. Cole Palmer is there, not holding the width and is not occupying his correct position. Malo Gusto, who should be holding the width down the right, has not also advanced. Pochettino has instructed Enzo and Conor Gallagher to push forward, creating an overload down the left, but the structure is so porous and the midfield is almost left empty. And this leads us to our topic of discussion today, and our topic of discussion today is how to control the game in possession. Now, how to attack while defending. That will be our topic of today, and our focus will be on Chelsea Football Club and their flaws. So Mauricio Pochettino picks Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez as his two key players in midfield. Now, midfield is where the game is usually controlled. It's where the game is won and lost. How you behave with the ball and how you behave without the ball depends on your two solid midfielders sitting in front of the back four. Before we start, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Now, we immediately look at teams while building. So Manchester City and Arsenal will generally have their wingers starting wide, with their number 10s occupying those pockets of space just between the lines. Now, what happens is that they usually employ an aggressive high line. Now, this 3-5 can be attained either by midfielders sitting close to the holding midfielders and the wingers cutting in and having the fullbacks hold the width, as Thomas Tuchel used to do at Chelsea, whereby he will use two midfielders in Mounts and Havertz to occupy this position. This is when you decide to start midfielders as wingers. Therefore, they'll have to cut in, and in this position, they're able to attempt a shot on goal. The number 9 can also drop deep and form this diamond together with the midfielders as Barcelona, the way Barcelona used to play. And immediately the ball is lost, the players are in close proximity where they can immediately engage in an aggressive counter press situations. Now, teams have really come of age to know how they can effectively counter against the very best of the teams. And therefore, majority of managers want their team to be quite solid with and without the ball. And especially in teams whereby they are slow, especially in Spain where they are slow in terms of rotating the ball, you will allow teams to get back in shape and immediately look to again reignite their attacking setup. And this is the way the La Liga usually works. Now, in other leagues, the counter pressing is extreme. It's extreme. And therefore, in some instances, what we find is that defenders usually like to find the holding midfielder. The holding midfielder is the one who dictates the tempo of the game and is able to play those penetrative passes from deep. He's the link between the defense and the attack. And therefore, in this position, he acts as a metronome, looking to try to penetrate balls forward. But once he loses the ball, he's susceptible, especially to counterattacks. And since he cannot cover the entire midfield by himself, this sometimes leaves the two centre-backs left exposed, as Guardiola found out ruthlessly in Germany, because in Germany, teams are quite intelligent when they are counter-attacking. Now, Because of the wide spaces between the two center backs, which Guardiola could easily have gotten away with at La Liga, what we started to see is the deployment of fullbacks. Now, wingers will be tasked to stay wide in this position, and then what we will see is that the number 9 will also play on the shoulder of the last defender to stretch the back line deep. Then what happens is that the midfielders, who are the two most creative players in the team, will push and occupy the half space regions, and since this will lead to the front five being formed. Now, in the midfield is where the issue was. Now, to prevent and mitigate the teams from bypassing the midfield, what we saw Pep do is that he inverted both of his fullbacks in midfield, with Philip Lam and David Alaba playing in midfield alongside Xabi Alonso. And that is when we had the 3-5 system. And this structure was quite impressive because now you had defenders, players with defensive acumen playing behind the ball, while the attacking players being given the freedom to try to dictate the tempo of the ball with the ball in the forward areas of the pitch. And this was very, very important for the other team. Now, looking at this structure of the game, which was quite important, is that teams will either attempt to win the ball in these kinds of phases and immediately look to how they can effectively look to progress with the ball forward. But once you have your midfielders in this midfield position, they can shuttle back and form back the back four, and this might enable your team to stop a lot of counterattacks, especially down the wide areas. Now, in the Premier League, the football is quite different from Spain and Germany. And how is this quite different? Because in the Premier League, what you need to understand, the Premier League is quite physically imposing league. And when you're pressing teams, what you'll find the striker doing is that he will either position himself between the two center backs and force the ball to be played on one side of the pitch. Remember, the main aim is to force the ball to be played in this position so that you're able to create pressing traps in midfield, as well as forcing the ball to be played down the fullback, where you can use the touchline as an extra defender. Now, opponents in this phase try to play the ball behind the high defensive line and the goalkeeper. And this is where, if you have excellent sweeper keepers like Manuel Neuer, Victor Valdez, Ederson, and Alisson, you are able to cover these spaces. And therefore, these teams are able to win the ball aggressively in these kinds of positions. But this is only for teams who like to play from the back. As Guardiola came to the Premier League, he realized that the Premier League is more concerned about direct football. It is physical, and therefore what you'll find is that the striker will normally play as a target man, as teams will not look to play from the back, but rather hoof the ball forward onto the number 9, who can lay the ball forward with his teammates looking to win the second balls and look to immediately play penetrative passes to wingers who will be making those diagonal passes in behind. Remember, the default formation in the Premier League was the 4-4-2, where you had one aerially dominant center forward with one technically creative number 10 playing alongside him, and the midfielders looking to win the ball and immediately launch those transition moments. And because of this kind of system, what we started to see is that Guardiola started to task his midfielders to be quite aggressive in winning the second balls. That's why he started to prefer Rodri. And when Rodri was given an interview, he explained how he needed to learn how to win aerial duels. Now, the structure in attack will dictate how you attack and defend with and without the ball. When you're with the ball, you need a solid defensive structure that can enable you to defend without the ball. And also, in case you lose the ball, you're able to aggressively employ counter press. But this is not the thing that we've seen with Chelsea. As we have seen in the first clip, Chelsea's attacking structure is quite poor, since players are crowding one side of the pitch and the midfield region is only left for Caicedo to try and protect. And this is the reason why Chelsea have been quite porous in midfield. Their attacking structure is not quite well laid. Caicedo is a player who's a victim of the circumstances. He's being left to cover a lot of ground, and Pochettino should decide whether he wants Caicedo to play alone in midfield or he would like him to have Enzo Fernandez to play alongside him. So, how Mauricio Pochettino is able to transform Chelsea is now a huge question, and whether he will employ tactical changes to give his team solid defensive structures, especially in possession. If you have enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for staying with us, and thanks for watching.